guys, this is Anae from Anything for Geeks, and today we will continue our evolution series, so let's get started with it. And we will be seeing some pretty big bangs, and yes, I did do that on purpose, so So, last time we talked about the Cambrian Period and about, the first animals and stuff like that, about, the Sprigina, and the comb jellies and stuff like that. So and in the last episode, which is technically the first episode, but I mentioned that we were gonna be having some explosions. So we will be having the explosions this episode. Boom! Well, no, that was not the actual explosion. The next period after the Cambrian period is where our old timeline started, new datedly, which is the Cambrian period, which was around 515 million years ago. Now, here's where the explosions come in. So, the explosions, they weren't actual explosions, they're not volcanic eruptions or somebody dropped a bomb. I mean, there were no people to drop bombs, nor were there a bomb. But the Cambrian had an explosion of life. Well, technically it wasn't that much of an explosion because there was already a lot of animals before the Cambrian, but it's the earliest period that scientists knew of with life, way back in the 1800s and the 1900s, was the Cambrian. So they called it the Cambrian explosion because all of a sudden they see all of these bunch of animals with weird spikes and tentacles and weird arms and weird heads and eyes and everything that you find in an animal today. And we will meet some animals that no longer exist and have no living relatives. And we'll also meet some very, very familiar animals. Animals that people keep as pets in bowls. So, the Cambrian period starts off with the first proper arthropods. So, arthropods, when I say arthropod, you think bug, worm, insect, butterfly, all that stuff, the itsy bitsy spiders, and all the creeping stuff, and ants and bugs and ladybugs. So that kind of stuff. But when I say arthropod, it's not just bugs that you should think about, but things that you eat in real life, shrimp, for example, or crabs or lobsters. And you should also think octopus, squid, and clams, and every mollusk, a mussel. And those are arthropods. And we have the first arthropods called radiodonts. Kind of a cool name if you ask me. And these guys were big, huge, gigantic. Not that really that gigantic, but still, imagine a lobster that was 2 feet long. Not a lobster, but that you would get an approximation of Anomalcaris, the largest of the radiodonts, and the biggest and predator. It was an apex predator of the Cambrian seas 500 million years ago. Anomalcaris roamed the Cambrian seas. Okay, let's get more serious, but so Anomalcaris was 2 feet long, which is huge for a bug and definitely gigantic for its time because yeah, we're gonna see the ancestors of some very familiar stuff in like a bowl of fish and chips, or you and me. We are now coming to the start of the very first vertebrates, which are fish. Well, not technically fish. Well, yeah, there are fish, but like the ancestors of vertebrates looked like worms, and yeah, the first fish were no different. They didn't have any fins except for like one wavy thing that ran down their whole back, and so they were basically like anchovies. So, and they would be like the size of my thumb, around like an inch or so. And compare that with the gigantic Anomalocaris. Well, not gigantic, but compare that with a 2-foot long lobster, or something like that, a lobster, or stuff. But imagine an Anomalocaris that's 2 feet long to a tiny anchovy that's like 1 inch long. That is huge. Well, when you're looking through the eyes of a fish or an anchovy. So the first vertebrate ancestors were basically, they just look like worms. And an example is Pikaia, which just looked like a worm swimming through the water. It was really tiny. And then you get the first fish, and examples are like haiku ichthyes, and then Mylocunmingia. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right, but yeah, Mylocunmingia. It's MylokUnmingia. So yeah, I think it's Mylocunmingia. I have no idea. If you know a better pronunciation, yeah, please tell me in the comments. Anyway, more on that later. So the first fish, we mostly find them in like places in China. So like haiku ichthyes, you can separate that into 2 parts, like the haiku and ichthyes. So ichthyes is basically the Greek word for fish, and haiku, and it's not the Japanese poems, but yeah, if I remember correctly, the haiku is like this place in China somewhere, and yeah, and we have some very, very, very weird creatures, like another one of these early arthropods called Opabinia, which had like this gigantic, well, not gigantic, but a long sucker with a lobster claws thing at the end of it, which may have or may have not been a mouth, and 5 eyes, like 5 eyes that could rotate in every direction. This guy could like literally had eyes in the back of his head, as well as the front and the sides, and also the top. So yeah, he could see everywhere at once. But yeah, and Opabinia, we don't know if there are any living relatives, but there is one really cool theory. So there are these like microscopic creatures that live on moss called tardigrades. They look like tiny little white gummy bears or caterpillars. Hence they have the name water bear. But and water bears or tardigrades, they are really cool because apparently they can withstand like tons of pressure, because they can live like at the bottom of the sea, in the deep sea. They can survive intense heat and cold because they live in like the Sahara Desert and the Arctic and like the Antarctic. And they can actually survive in space without air or temperature or food or anything for like weeks. And like tardigrades can withstand vacuums. And they have like, I think they have like radiation protection. So like they are not affected by radioactivity. And Yeah, they're really cool. Protection from meteor strikes, I think, not so much, but yeah, tardigrades, they're like almost impossible to kill with all these super high weapons, but the weakness is you can just squish them. And yeah, there is no defense for tardigrade against the squishing with the foot. Or you could use this mouse to squish them. You could squish like millions of them because like they are so tiny. You could fit like millions of them on this mouse, and they just like, ugh. I just squished a ton of tardigrades. I am a tardigrade killer. Actually, maybe that was a bit too dark. Ignore that. Okay, but yeah, I think you know what I'm about to say here, but some scientists have a theory that Opabenia was actually one of the ancestors and the closest living relatives of tardigrades, which is like really cool, but also confusing. Yeah, because if you look at it, most animals get like larger because we went from like single-celled bacteria to us, which are like 6 feet tall, about for a full-grown human, and then but Opabenia is like about this big, about 1 foot, less than 1 foot, and then you get to a microscopic tardigrade that's like not even as big as this space. Like you could fit 100 of them in this space. So yeah, that's very cool, I think. And then yeah, the mystery of hallucigenia, because this is like absolutely comical because and it's not like comical, but it's a bit funny because yeah, it involves a debate between scientists about whether or not the other scientists' view of this creature is upside down. You see, hallucigenia looks like a big sausage with tentacles on one end and like these stealth-like spines on the other end. And this is like going horizontally, so it's like bum 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 bum. Not like it has on its head and its butt. Actually on the back and the belly of a normal animal. But yeah, scientists strongly disagreed. And strongly disagreed is like a euphemism. They had like a gigantic debate over it, and not even a debate. It almost went to a scientific war. But yeah, there was this slightly critical debate, about which way hallucigenia actually was. Whether it used the tentacles to like walk and the spines were for protection. That was one side. And the other side determined that hallucigenia used the spines as like gigantic, sharp stilts, and that the spines were the legs, and that like the tentacles were like food-grabbing arms. And the food-grabbing tentacle theory with the stilt spines is now has been proven correct. So yeah, yeah, that side you guys went out, and yeah, I offer my sympathies to the losers, utter losers. Yeah, but still, yeah. So those are the Cambrian explosion animals. And a lot of animals actually were evolving during this time, and like these were not the only families here. There were like tons and tons and tons of families evolving. Hence the name Cambrian explosion. Boom. And like the first trilobites, which are like these disc-shaped armored bug thingies, were evolving, and like all of the many kinds of mollusks with like shells, like sea snails kind of like sea snails. Those guys are evolving. We also have more jellyfish. Yay! We seem to have a lot of jellyfish here right now. So yeah, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe and share and comment. And also, do not forget to subscribe. And also, go and watch the other videos on my channel. They're also very cool. About as cool as the Cambrian explosion. So yeah, next time we'll talk about the evolution of fish in particular and the sea scorpions. Bye.